All right. All right.
Start hoarding all the gold and silver you can.
I gotta show that graph to my wife though. Like, that memory stick's now more than you could get like a low-end laptop for, like a month ago.
Yep.
You're just gonna go home and say, honey, are you anxious today? Do you want to be?
Also, that is that is an exponential curve that we've not reached the end of. You guys know how these like in terms of like we're talking about RAM again. You know how these curves typically go, right? They start off low, they exponentially increase until they hit an inflection point, at which point they start leveling off. This is like also like a typical curve for population growth. If you like introduce like a new species or something changes in the environment, this is what it looks like. This inflection point is defined by the first derivative no longer getting steeper, and it starts. I ask you here, does that look like it's still ramping up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Does that look like the first derivative is starting to like even out? The rate of increase is leveled out here yet. Because I don't think any charitable interpretation of that data would support that conclusion. Math! Blah! All right.
SSDs might also be going up.
They will. They're next. They're next.
87 for 32 gigs.
I could only be angry at one thing at a time.
I mean, just AI, easy.
But you know why they're doing this? They believe, truly and at a theological level, that they are bringing a God into existence.
Yeah.
So, because you are birthing a deity, any amount of disruption to existing anything is fully justified.
Interesting.
It's a,
Yeah, tech bros have to go do that.
yeah, like RAM, they did this to the RAM market for theological reasons,
That's pretty interesting.
right? And this is from people who claim to be atheists.
I mean, everyone believes in something.
Everyone believes in something.
I've done this mechanic.
Yeah.
They can't find one, they make one.
Personally, I'm a human being patriot. I believe in humanity.
You were in-
I don't believe in the machines. I believe in
Raise
us.
the RAM prices for the Omnisire.
Yes. No, like the one thing they got wrong in the 80s about Skynet is how much RAM it would take.
So you're not disgusted by the weakness of your flesh?
I mean, no. Obviously, I'm disgusted by the weakness of my flesh because the flesh is weak. But you know, despite being fragile earthen vessels, we contain a soul, which is the immortal part of ourselves, which is, better than our earthly vessel. So, and that's one of the nice little contradictions that the Creator likes to build into the universe. Basically to knock people down a peg, mostly, I think. It's like, oh, so you think you're all that? Well, here's cancer. Boom. All right, what are we talking about? We're talking about review.
Which is dust we shall return.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I think when we did this before, we did Acme Steel. Was that right?
Yeah.
So let's do the other one.
Nope, 950.
I'm really fun.
All right.
Maybe it's Unix timestamp is wrong, they've already passed the doomsday.
I mean, at this point, like, who even cares about the Unix epoch bug? Are we even going to last that long?
Nope.
Like, good grief. The Unix epoch bug is really starting to sound like the Mayan calendar, the Aztec calendar. The 2012 thing where the world was supposed to end. Anyway. Blah, 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 blah. blah, 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 let's see the receipts. So, as our good friend Linus Torvalds once said, talk is cheap, show me the code. So, let us examine a series of documents to isolate from that series of documents the entities which are required in order to perform third form normalization. So, can everybody please bring this up on your own computers so that I can use this board? That would be very convenient. Also convenient for the folks watching at home. Thank you for telling me about that website, by the way. That's going to be very useful. So, let's go through these in order of their occurrence. Let's see, we've got quite a few of these to get through, so let's get to it. Supplier report. Probably going to require a bunch of boards for this. What entities do we have?
Supplier number.
Supplier number. What else?
Supplier name.
Name. Subname.
Discount offer.
Discount.
Balance owed.
Balance.
Contact name.
Contact.
Telephone.
Phone. Yes. I suppose tell is better, but. Right. Very good. So. Okie dokie. So, first form normalization. First normal form. What are we looking for?
Primary key.
We're looking to identify the primary key or a composite key if we can't find a single primary key. What else are we doing?
Eliminating calculated values.
We're getting rid of calculated values. So I always find that's a nice place to start because, if you're trying to make a decision about something, make a decision about fewer things. If there's an elimination step, eliminate things first. Good mental strategy. So, do we have any calculated values here? No. So, we proceed immediately to determining the key. Now, anybody got any candidates?
Supplier number.
Line number, yeah.
No.
Does this one completely determine the contents of the table?
Well, there's no repetition in the table, so I'd say yeah.
Yes. So there's no repetition in this table. The supplier numbers. Another way to say this is the supplier number dependent on any other attribute? And the answer in this case is, of course, no. All of these attributes, well, some of these attributes are dependent on supplier number, but not the other way around. I would ask you to consider discount offered, right? This is dependent on supplier number as it varies as the supplier number varies, but supplier number does not vary as the discount offered varies, right? We have like 20% occurs twice, 30% occurs twice, but supplier ID varies independently of that, right? I review this to sort of put back into your brains the type of analysis you need to do to determine dependency, right? Because all of this normal form stuff you can fundamentally boil down to dependency relationships. So it's very, very important that you nail down how to do a single dependency analysis. right? Because all the rest of them flow from that. Make sense? Okay, so, but in this case, we can say with some confidence, supplier number is the primary key, name, discount, balance, contact, and telephone number are all the dependent attributes, at least as far as the first normal form. Now, let's proceed to second normal form. So, question, is this a compound key? No. So, do we have multiple keys to decide which one is dependent on which one? So what are we doing with second normal form?
Skip,
Okay.
basically.
We proceed immediately to third normal form. So remember, third normal form, we need to decide if any of these attributes are dependent on a non-key attribute. In that case, we isolate them, right? So, let's go through them in order. Supplier name. Is this dependent on anything other than supplier number? No. Discount. Dependent on anything but supplier number? No. Balance?
No,
No. Contact?
no,
No. Telephone number?
maybe.
Well, you can't, you
Is it
could
the
argue
company
that
number or the contact number?
that will
Well,
be
let's take a
contact.
look and see if we see any duplication.
I don't see it.
Yeah,
I don't see any duplication. So, I would say that, okay, I'm going to take off math brain. I'm going to put on common sense brain, okay? According to common sense brain, it's theoretically possible that more than one company supplier may have the same contact name. Like, for example, suppliers are often like in groups or collectives, right? Companies are sometimes organized into larger companies, and yet you'd still like consider the subsidiaries of the company to be, you know, you'd consider this company's subsidiaries to still be companies, to still be suppliers according to this list, right? In theory, several suppliers which are under one company may have one contact person. So, in theory, contacts might, like you might have repetition, right? And if there is repetition, it might make sense to take contacts and make them their own table. And it's kind of also like a classic Rolodex kind of thing to do, you know? However, I would say, taking off common sense brain and putting math brain back on, I would say the data that we are presented does not support this conclusion, right? There is no repetition in the data set we have been given, which is supposedly representative. So, in this case, I'm happy to proceed along math brain's line of thinking. You guys agree with that? This is the conclusion you guys came to. So, let's call that work done then. So we're kind of in this rare case where the first normal form was fully normalized. We may eventually end up, you know, peeling off contacts, but again, I would say that at this phase of the analysis, the data does not support that. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay. Let's proceed to the inventory report. So, let me just, let me put one little roadblock in here for you. you may be tempted to say to yourself, this table is now done, I can at least do that square in the ERD, get at least that many marks. But you would be forgetting one thing, which is that once you have all of your tables in, there's a consolidation step, right? So you have to, this may not be all of the attributes in this table. There may be other attributes from other tables that need to be put in here. So we cannot start drawing the ERD just yet. Make sense? All good? So far so good? Thumbs up? Awesome. So,
Stand by the yard.
what? Who says, what?
Inventory report.
Inventory report.
I
Sand.
think so. Sand by the
What?
yard.
And they have a
Sand,
stock of
but-
5 yards of sand.
Cubic yards, that would be.
Okay.
That's a lot of sand, if that's cubic yards.
Half the
No,
blocks.
no, this is what you do in order to sell sand. You take the little grains of sand and you line them up,
In one
and when you
yard.
get 5
One
yards of
individual
sand,
yard of one dimensional sand.
yeah. Oh man. Also, am I the only person who misread womanized as womanized?
I'm glad that wasn't the same.
Yeah. I'm pretty, womanized is a thing. It's, yeah, but womanized lumber, I think that means weatherproof lumber. Even Word thinks that that's a misspelled word and thinks that it is, yes, womanized. Alright, what are our attributes?
Item number.
Item number. What else?
Description.
Description. What else?
Unit of measure.
Or UOM.
Unit. Just call that unit. What else?
Safety stock.
Safety stock.
I guess that's what they have in backup, I guess?
Is the minimum amount that you can have before you reorder.
Gotcha. Safety stock. You actually work a job, eh? Selling price.
Quantity,
Quantity.
primary supplier.
And yes. Saying primary supplier implies the existence of secondary suppliers, but let's just, use the data as it's been given to us. When you're doing this is the thing I'm going to try to encourage you to do, alright? Try to think with math brain as much as you can while doing these, because math brain thinks more simply than common sense brain does, and is more likely to reach a mathematically cohesive solution, right? Common sense brain is not gonna be the efficient way to think about these problems, although it is occasionally. You wanna pop in there every once in a while. So, alright. So, first normal form. First thing to do is,
Okay, calculate values.
remove calculated values, right?
None.
So there are no calculated values in this table again, but that's still a step. You still have to think, are there any calculated values? No, move on to the next step, all right? Eliminate the things that go, if you have to make a decision between 10 things, but you can narrow it to 8 things before making the decision, narrow it down, then make the decision. Life advice too. So, in this one we kind of have another one that's an obvious primary key, which is it? Very good. Is that first normal form?
Yeah.
Let's proceed to second. Do we have a composite key?
No.
I guess.
So we cannot, yes?
Why isn't primary supplier part of the key?
That's a good question. Why isn't primary supplier part of the key? So I will ask you to take a look at item number and note repetition. Is there any repetition in the item number column? Where? Is there?
No, there's one else.
No. No, not in supplier, in item number. Right? So because there's no repetition in the item number, and given that, you know, common sense brain says this is an inventory report, so every item number is probably going to be unique, we have one distinct entity for every record. So it's sufficient for a primary key all itself, right? Now, if, you know, if the report was a bit different, if primary supplier wasn't primary supplier but supplier, and basically if we had more than one supplier that could supply one item number, you'd be right. Because then we would require the combination of item number and supplier number to uniquely define a record in the table, right? But as it stands, primary supplier it appears to be completely dependent on item number. And here's a little tip, guys. If an attribute has no repetition whatsoever, mathematical analysis will tell you every single other attribute is dependent on it. Right? So supplier number in this case is dependent on item number, so it shouldn't form part of the primary key. That's one of the conditions that you need for a composite key, is the two parts of the composite key are not dependent on each other. Right? Make sense? Because if one's dependent on the other, then the one you think should be in the composite key isn't actually contributing to the solution, because it's dependent on the other one. Make sense? Very good. Follow-up question?
No.
No? Okay. I'm glad we're having this discussion. So, second normal form, as with the first table, is now, we proceed immediately to the third normal form. Right. So, here's a question. Are there any attributes here which are dependent on something other than the primary key?
No.
Well, let's go through them in sequence. Certainly description, unit of measure, and safety stock all appear to be, you know, attributes of an item. So, okay, fine. Selling price, same. Quantity on hand, same. We may quibble and say, oh, but supplier number, right? But this is still dependent on the item number. Even though it's a foreign key, in this table it's dependent on the item number. So, once again, we're in a situation where third normal form is also not a thing. I hope these tables get a bit more interesting than this.
It does.
Good. I was beginning to think that maybe because this was like the first example, this was like the dead easy one, and then the second one was the hard one. We already did the hard one. But okay, if it gets more interesting, then I'm happy. So, inventory report. Any questions? Any arguments? It's important to me that everybody understands this process at both a logical and a mathematical level, right? So,
Sorry. I
yes,
have a question for the supplier report.
supplier report?
Yes.
Let's take a look, yeah.
I didn't understand why you said that in case that we have more than one contact name, with the same number that will qualify that as a completely different table.
Mm.
than this.
So, let me spin you a scenario, alright? Looking at the data here. Let's say that Glendale sod and Brookville sod are both subsidiary organizations of Big Sod Incorporated. Alright, Big Sod, you gotta watch out for Big Sod. So it is entirely possible, because they are separate organizations within, in and of themselves, that somebody like Terra Landscaping will enter them as different companies. However, if they are two subsidiary organizations of one larger organization, the person you talk to order stuff might be from the larger organization and might be the contact person for both subsidiaries. So it's entirely possible, using Logic Brain,
Not the same.
that contact name may be repeated in this table. If contact name is repeated in this table, then telephone number would vary according to contact name and not according to supplier number. In that case, under third normalization, we would want to make a contacts table, right? Because it minimizes the data redundancy of multiple contact people per thing. And because we're kind of light on data here, we probably want to introduce a like an MUN, right? You'd want to introduce an ID number. Oh, okay, all right. That reminds me. A thing that Gilbert complained about as a traditional problem on the test is like apparently, rather than use the primary keys that are already in the data, people like invent their own primary key, and he finds that severely irritating when like you've been given perfectly good primary keys in the data. So you shouldn't have to invent any primary keys, okay? If you find yourself doing that, stop yourself and examine what you're doing with extreme prejudice. Okay? Make sense? Alright.
So basically in the information that we have, there is not indication that the telephone number is dependent on contact name.
Yes.
Based on the information that we have.
Exactly. Yeah, which is what I was saying, like if you pop on Math Brain, like we don't have a single actual instance of repetition in that attribute. So this, like, maybe this is like a forward thinking thing that you would do when organizing the database, but you're doing it with common sense brain, not math brain. Make sense?
So let's say on a test, we're doing normalization and we discover that we have another table, like we have more attributes to add to the existing table. Like for example, here we have the supplier number table.
Mm-hmm.
So if we already have the attributes from the previous table, do we just write the existing attributes, or should we write each one separately?
Okay, run that question by me again.
Yeah. So let's say we're doing normalization.
Sure.
And we find more attributes to add to an existing table.
Right, so like we process like the next report, we find supplier number has a couple of attributes that we didn't see from the other
Yeah.
report. Yes.
Should we just write existing attributes, or do we write all of them separately?
When you're writing out your normal form rough work, you'll do them as separate tables. But then at the consolidation phase at the end, that's where you compose tables with the same primary keys. So that's the phase that you do when you're finished all of this at the end. Does that make sense? Awesome. We have a phase for that. All right. So shall we proceed to the quote report? Is this getting too low for people to see? No? Okay. There's like a dead space on this board behind the podium. I'm just a little conscious of it. There you go. Okay, alright. Weird robot. You know the magnification on those things is so good now, you can like do microscopic views of like the undersides of your fingernails and stuff, which is a great way to gross out students.
Ask me how I know.
Oh, well, I mean, anybody who's known me for any degree of time knows I love schoolyard pranks. So, let us consider quote report. What are our entities?
I don't know.
Item number, ooh, that sounds like something we already have. What else? Description. Next. Yes, unit, yeah. UON is actually shorter. Cost. Supplier number. And supplier name. A little bit, but I don't think we've actually, I think we've only introduced one additional attribute. Maybe, just looking at
At
it.
least it's a composite key this time around.
Yeah, okay. So. What was that you said? Something about a composite key?
At least there's a composite key this time around.
True. So, let's consider, all right, it's like, this one's kind of a little bit of a gimme, because we have two foreign keys corresponding to the two tables we've already done, right? So it seems pretty obvious, right? But let's, since this is our first encounter of this, let's drill down and take a look at the numbers. Do we have repetition in the item number field?
Yes.
Do we have repetition in supplier number?
Yep.
Do they vary independently of each other?
They do.
Yes, question mark? There we go. All right. So, let's consider a subset of these data. Things have been sorted by item number, so that's easy to do. Is supplier number varying independently of item number? Does it change when item number does not? Yes.
It does.
Good. Now, let's consider repeated supplier numbers. Let's consider supplier 201. Is item number varying when supplier number does not?
Yep.
So these are independent attributes, right? Is there any one attribute here which has no repetition at all?
No.
Checking.
Cost has a little bit of repetition
You'd actually be wrong. Take a look at cost.
in it. It has repetition in it.
Where?
22, there's two 28s.
There's 220. Oh, so there is. Oh, see, I didn't scan the full thing. But
You thought you had a gotcha, but you didn't.
I didn't. Yeah. Cost should not be your primary key. Under any, that's common sense brain, right? Math brain would actually be fine with that, but common sense brain says cost should not be your primary key. Okay? It's important to have both brains. So the question then becomes, we want to reorganize this so that supplier number and item number are the composite key. Item no plus supply no arrow. Then we have these guys. Now, and are there any calculated values?
No.
No, okay, good. So, second normal form. Remember that second normal form, under second normal form, we are trying to suss out what is dependent on item number, what is dependent on supplier number, and what is dependent on both. Right? So here we actually have to do a little bit of analysis. Alright? So, description. Does this vary with item number, supplier number, or both?
Item number.
Correct. So we got item number, supplier number, and item plus supplier number. So, description varies with item number. Everybody can see that, I hope? Right? That's also common sense brain talking. Unit of measure,
Also item number.
also item number. You can also kinda, like, a secondary, but this is a common sense analysis, not a math analysis. The common sense analysis is, unit is something I already have in a table that this will be merged with, right? But if you, and it's kind of hard when the data is so sparse to actually determine this, but yeah, let's just say it's dependent on item number as well. Cost.
Both.
Both. Very good. Cost depends on both. Supplier name,
Supplier number.
pretty obvious, yeah.
Dependent on sand measured by yard.
Yes.
You
So,
can
There we
ask-
go.
You can ask Crowstone, that's wrong.
so, for third normal form then, remember that third normal form, we are trying to determine if any attributes are dependent on non-key values. This immediately excludes these two tables, right? They only have one dependent attribute anyways, it's not possible, well, actually I think it's true that each attribute is definitionally dependent on itself, but that's like saying 1 is equal to 1 and not very useful, right? So, because you don't have at least two entities here, there's no third normal form which you can apply, right? This one, we do have multiple dependent attributes, so what we have to decide is unit of measure dependent on description or description dependent on unit of measure. Anybody? Neither is dependent on either of the other ones. Plus, we have like common sense backup from the fact that these are in an existing table, right? So far so good? So we can say that third normal form, third normal form is equivalent to second normal form in this case. Shall we proceed? Contract. Ooh, okay, this one's getting a little bit more interesting. So, unlike the ones we've done so far, this one actually has some header data. So, what are my attributes?
Contract number.
Contract number,
Contract date.
contractee name, yeah. Contract name,
Date?
yes, date, good.
Job number?
Yep, job number,
Description.
description,
Quote
quote is, what is that, the amount they want? Yeah, quote
and total.
and total. Yes.
Do you not put down the line items for like the different line items there in the contract or job number?
So the line numbers, that's a very good question, because like we have multiple lines here, right? So, no, not yet, right? We don't need to fabricate a line number entry because we're working in a system where we can have composite keys, right? Skipping ahead just a little bit, what's going to end up happening with this one is we're going to have a composite key composed of the contract number and the job number. Between the two of these uniquely define the lines. So we don't need an M-bun for this table. Does that make sense?
Yeah, everything except for the input, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like the elements of the composite keys are also M-buns, but you know, we don't need to invent a third one, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
A situation in which you should invent an M-bun is when you have repetition which occurs in a table that is not being described by the primary keys that any candidate keys that exist, right? So, first normal form.
Execute the total for crimes against normal forms.
Yes, executing total for crimes against normal forms. Very good. So I kind of already said it, but so under like first normal form, right? One of the things that is like in the worst way of describing this, that was the way that we led with in this class for some gosh darn reason, is like we want to eliminate the redundancy of these lines existing in this by filling out the contract number for each. Yes?
Could we do contract number and job number as the primary key?
Yes. So yes, that's where things will go, right? So unfortunately, when you have something like this, unless you're given two of these, which I don't think we are not. When you're given a report with header information, you should assume that header information, first of all, assume there's more than one report, and two, assume that the header information varies among reports, right? This is fairly obvious here because this is obviously like a request for a contract. Presumably this company does more than one contract, right? But that's again common sense brain, not math brain, right? So justification for it being contract number and job number, right? Looking at the lines in this document, job number would appear to uniquely define them, right? But if we consider multiple documents, it is reasonable to assume that job number, like it's gonna be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4 on every contract, right? And the thing that varies between different contracts is the contract number. Now, unfortunately, that's common sense brain, right? But you need both common sense brain and math brain to figure these problems out, right? So, I'm perfectly happy with that though. We shall say that contract number and job number are our composite key. And we will call that the first normal form. So far so good? Let us proceed to second normal form. Under second normal form, we are determining the dependency of every attribute on all of the elements of the primary key, all of the elements of the composite key individually and as a unit. So you start off second normal form by writing all combinations, job number by itself, contract number by itself, and job number plus contract number. And we have to go through each of the attributes and categorize them. Make sense? Good. So, let's start at the beginning. Contract name, contractee name. What would this be dependent on?
Contract number.
Here's a quick hint for you. This is common sense brain. Anything that appears in the header will be dependent on the primary key that appears in the header. Right? So, contract number will have contract name. What else? Date. Very good. Check, check. I even recommend checking these things off as you do them. How about description? Which is this dependent on? Job number. How about quote?
Would it not be job number and contract number? Because surely there's other job number ones in other contracts where they have a completely different description.
Here we go.
There we go. So, yep,
I broke myself studying this.
you've done well. But let me ask you a question. Did that conclusion come from math brain or from common sense brain?
Experience brain,
So common sense brain.
I suppose.
Yeah. So if we think with common sense brain, how is the description arrived at? Somebody writes it down. Is that written down every time a contract is issued? Or is it written down once for all jobs of that type? Right? First of all, we don't really have anything to indicate that there's a table for jobs of a particular type here. Right? So, the description will vary between contracts. Right? The job number is a line number in a report. It doesn't refer to a particular job type. Right? Another way to say this, if you had two contracts and the only thing that varied between them was the contract number and the order in which these jobs occurred in the contract, they would still be independent and valid data. Right? So, description and quote, therefore, should be dependent on both. Although, it is very difficult to determine that from one invoice. Yes?
And the fact that there's measurements in quantities of trees, it probably means that it's a custom job, so it's unique.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly. And anybody who's actually, worked in this type of a business will tell you that every job is unique, right? Yeah, so certainly the description of what the job is should vary by what quote it is, right? Or what contract it is. So, good. Let's call that our second normal form. So, moving to third normal form. First, job number isn't a table. It has no attributes, so we throw it away. Contract number. Should name or date be dependent on each other?
No.
Not according to common sense brain, and not according to math brain. The two halves of our brains are in agreement. Should you ever have anything dependent on a description ever? No, that's common sense brain. If we take a look at the math going on here, you know, it's not super clear, we don't quite have enough data, but common sense brain should tell us that, like, yeah, no, these are not dependent. Like, I should point out and clarify, this is important for common sense brain to understand. Just because a relationship exists between two concepts, that doesn't mean the data is dependent on each other, right? Surely, the description of the job describes how much work the job is. The quote describes how much money you want for doing the job. These are not unrelated things, but they're not dependent in a data sense. Both of those are dependent on the line entry in the contract. Make sense? A thumbs up. Okay. Are we learning things?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. This is good review? I hope when you guys see the exam, you'll realize how good the review is right now. There's a reason I led with this, guys. So, report on the status of contract billing. Man, could you find a more dry name for a report? Well, labor report is probably even drier. All right, so contracts, billing.
Those unnecessarily wordy, contract billing status report.
Yes, yeah, it's like a title for a report from the 19th century. You know. Okay. What is our data? What are our data?
Contract number.
Contract number.
Contracting name.
Sorry. Contract. Yeah. So contract name.
Status.
Sorry. Status.
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 Full quotes.
Full quotes.
Billing to date. Billings to date, rather.
Billings to date.
And costs to date.
Costs to date. All right. So, first normal form. Do we have any calculated values?
You could argue that.
With full quote, yeah, sorry.
I was gonna say the same thing.
So in this case, I would say no.
It is calculated, but it's calculated from another table somewhere completely different, so.
Yes, within the context here, it's not necessarily, like, presumably there's like an accounts statement where the actual amount is transferred. Perhaps we could pull it in from there, but looking at what we're looking at now, and labor report is our last one, I don't think we're gonna get that data, right? Full quote is like how much the person was charged. Billings to date is how much they have paid, right? And costs is how much it cost the company. So, like, basically, this one minus that one is the profit, right? But profit doesn't actually appear in this table. Profit would be a calculated value, right? But we don't have it in this table. Make sense? Primary key analysis.
Contract number.
Would status not count as a calculated, since it's C, it's billings to date matches?
Oh, that's a good.
Ooh, complete or incomplete? Ah, very, very clever. Let's eliminate status. Very good. So, the status column It's C for complete or I for incomplete. It's C if full quote is equal to billings date, I if it's not. Yes?
Could you argue that there may be a case where the full quote has been paid, but the contract is not yet finished? Or is that too complex for this?
Yes, but that wouldn't be for the report on contract billings.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. Okay, so, first, normal form. What if anything, is our primary key here? Contract number? I'm sufficient with this, yes. There's nothing else here that really is even moderately approaching the appearance of a primary key. That's common sense brain. Math brain knows you can use strings as primary keys, right? The data type, the data type does not tell you whether or not it's a primary key, although it's a hint, right? Technically speaking, you could have a table with a Boolean as the primary key, but you'd only ever have 2 entries in it. But that's mathematically possible. So, okay. So, because this is not a composite key, we may proceed immediately past second normal form to third normal form. Right? Are any of these values dependent on something other than the contract number?
No.
No. Do we have any repetition in this report that might indicate otherwise? No. So this is an easy one. Both second and normal second, third, and first normal form are all the same thing for this table. I think this is the easy one that they were supposed to lead with, that I was supposed to lead with. All right.
Ooh, the next one.
Aha! I love weird tables. Labor report. So, we have a few new, oh man. I know it's supposed to be total hours, but I read it as toffers or toffers, authors and toffers.
Hot hours, the children yearn for the mines.
Yes. All right. Yes, question.
Sorry, going back to contract.
Yes.
Did we say that 3NF was the same as 2NF? There was no change?
Oh, no, but we, this is the second, this was the second normal form. We looked at third normal form and said there was nothing to be done because date and contract name are not dependent on each other. Description and quote are never make anything dependent on either of those things. Common sense, right? So third normal form is the same as second in that case. So we're skipping the last step for that one. Labor reports. What are our entities?
Contract number.
Contract number. Contract number really seems to be making the rounds.
Employee number.
Employee number.
Employee name.
Employee name.
Date worked.
Date.
Worked.
Are there multiple dates here?
Nope.
In that case, I'm going to call it date.
Okay. Regular hours.
Reg hours.
Overtime hours.
Overtime hours.
Hot hours.
Taught hours. Good. All right. First normal form, do we have any calculated values?
Get hours.
Yes. Taught hours are eliminated when you have a job. That's why you have to send kids to daycare. So, any others? Would not appear so. Key identification, yes?
Sorry, wouldn't you argue that overtime hours are the ones that are calculated depending on the total hours minus the regular hours?
Ooh, that's, okay. That's not a bad argument to make, actually. Because you have 3 fields, only 2 of which contain unique information, right? In theory, you could also back calculate regular hours from total hours minus overtime, right? So MathBrain says you have 3, keep 2. MathBrain doesn't tell us which one to drop, right? Common Sense Brain says drop the thing called total, right? Because the name total implies it's calculated. But that's Common Sense Brain. Good job. But yeah, MathBrain, all the MathBrain tells us is we have 3, keep 2. Does that make sense? You see why you need both, right? So, how about keys? How are we doing for keys? This one's kind of obvious, eh?
This looks like a 3.
Ooh, a 3-way. Ooh, okay, let's take a look. So, we've got quite a lot of repetition in contract number. We've got employee name. Yeah, employee number. Uh-oh. We've got repetition in both columns. Yes?
Employee number and date.
Yes, employee number, contract number, and date. Yes. We have a 3-banger. Uh-oh. Yes?
Why contract number specifically?
Because, well, does date uniquely determine it?
The rest now, but
That's
it would be enough just employee number and date. Because technically speaking, for example, if we take the number employee number 10, the contract number is always 915.
Oh yeah, contract number could be kicked out.
So, and technically speaking, there's anything there that is dependent on contract number. So you can uniquely identify a row just with the employee number and date.
MathBrain is right. You're right according to MathBrain, but I'm gonna override with Common Sense Brain. All right, here comes the Common Sense override. Making the contract number dependent assumes, the assumption you're introducing is that one worker will only work 1 contract in a day.
That's
Which unfortunately isn't true, right?
Yeah,
If you
that's
take a
right.
look at like, if you take a look at like furnace guys, right? Furnace guys will often do like, fix 1 furnace in the morning, maybe 2 in the afternoon, that type of thing, right? People will, it depends on the type of work. I think you could probably make the argument that landscaping is like, you're more likely to work whole days. So, but I would say like, in general, you shouldn't constrain a contractor so that he can only work 1 job in a day.
okay.
All right? But I agree with you mathematically. You have a comment? No? So, also, I kind of want to do the triple key analysis, just because like some people may not have seen one before. So, what do you do when you have a triple key?
Yeah, all combinations.
So we have contract number plus employee number plus the date. Uh-oh. Well, you must do all combinations. So we've got contract number on its own, employee number on its own, date on its own, contract plus employee on its own, employee plus date on its own, and date plus contract on its own.
That was awful.
Most of these tables won't have any attributes, right? But, you know, once we take this guy, and this guy out, we only have 3 left, right? But, and one of them is employee, like one of them, a few of these are fairly obvious in one category or another. But once, like, you still have to do this analysis. And the reason you have to do it at this level is basically a math brain reason. If you don't do out every combination and possibility, you are prejudicing yourself about the data, right? You're making like predeterminations about how the data is dependent that is not necessarily supported by the actual data. So, let us consider these individually. Let's take employee name. This one should be fairly obvious which one of those that applies to. An employee's name is not dependent on the date upon which the employee works, right? Not typically anyways. So, if you'll notice, employee name and number, employee name appears to be completely and wholly dependent on employee number. Is it, but let's take a look. Is employee name dependent on date? Does it vary independently of date?
What if the employee changes their name legally?
I was gonna say, this gave me a cool idea for like a side.
If the employee changes if the employee changes their name legally, then you will be very glad that you did 3rd level normalization, because that means that you avoid any update anomalies in the tables when they do. Sir. So, but I return to the question, does employee name vary independently of date?
Yes.
Does employee name vary independently of contract number? Yes. So, employee name is dependent only on employee number, which is our expected result, but math brain backs us up.
Dang, it's almost like an employee entity.
Yeah. So, there we go. Regular hours.
Every day someone will have a different name.
It varies hardly at all. Yay! Okay, so, for regular hours, it doesn't really vary, but it does a little bit. It does a little bit, right? Let's consider the variance that does exist there. Do regular hours vary independently of contract?
Yes.
Yes. Do regular hours vary independently of date?
Yeah.
Do regular hours vary independently of employee name?
Yep.
Yes. So, we've eliminated these 3, right? So, question. Do regular hours vary independently of the combination of contract and employee number? Yes, it does. If you look, contract number 915, employee number 10, we've got a 7 and an 8. So, we are not dependent on contract plus employee number. What about employee number plus date? Same thing, same line, like examine line 3 and line 1 and line 3. Well, actually, date varies there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we determined
But-
that, determine that employee number and dates is not really sufficient, and we threw contact number in there, so I think it's the same case here.
Yeah,
Or
it's a little harder though, cause like date worked is like the one that has the most, like the least repetition of all of these. Like, we're not gonna find a date on which, because of like the way that this works, and because of like the particular anomaly in the data which led us to have to make the decision between 2 and 3 elements of a composite key here, we don't have an example of one employee working more than one contract in one day in this table, so we can't actually determine this one. From the table, we have to use common sense brain, right? So according to common sense brain,
So we need a combination of 3, right?
should regular hours vary with employee and date and not be dependent on the contract? The trick is not be dependent on the contract, right? Common sense brain will say that regular hours should vary with all 3 of those, right? Each day is different, each job is different, each employee is different who's working on the job. So each one of those contributes to how many hours we have in this table, right? So I would say that we should put regular hours and overtime hours for the same reasons in the three banger. Are you guys comfortable with that? You see how I reached that conclusion? Cool. It'll be interesting to see what the solution says on this point. So, you remember how I said like most of these we don't and in the end need? It's still necessary to have done the full analysis though. You can take some shortcuts with common sense brain, but be wary of taking too many, right? In order to do one of these problems, common sense brain and math brain have to be working hand in hand with each other, right? All right, so third form normalization. This is fine under a third normal form, it's only one dependent attribute. Are regular hours and overtime hours in any way dependent on each other? Common sense brain says no. If we take a look at the numbers and ask math brain, it's very difficult to say because there's so little variation in regular hours, right? However, certainly overtime hours is varying independently of regular hours, right? Are regular hours varying independently of overtime hours? Yes, right?
And you could argue that somewhere down there's someone taking a half day.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Basically, most of what I've been doing for this report is complaining about the poor quality of the data people are given. It's not representative of some important cases. But, yeah, put it to you this way. Lines 2 and 3, overtime hours vary independently of regular hours. Lines 1 and 2, regular hours are varying independent of overtime hours. So math brain backs us up that these two are not dependent on each other. Sound good? Thumbs up? Okay. So we can say that in this case, third normal form is equal to second normal form. And do we have any more reports? We don't.
You can make the ERD.
I hope that you can. I hope that you guys can do this a bit faster on the test. Some of those, you know, part of the purpose of teaching it is so that we kind of somewhat laboriously go through these decisions, because what I'm trying to train you on is those like atomic decisions that you're making that contribute to the solution, right? You need two things to do normalization. You need the overall strategy, and you need to be reliably able to do the small steps. You need to be able to, like this, there's only one small step. Two small steps. There are only two small steps. The first small step is isolating what's the key, right? But even that is a dependency analysis. The dependency analysis is everything. If you can do dependency analysis, all you have to do is memorize a couple of strategies for dependency analysis, and you too can do normalization on the test. Okay? I believe in you. Gilbert's under the impression that like almost everybody gets the ERD almost completely wrong every time this course is offered. So, I want you guys to prove him wrong. Alright? You're gonna be the guys who were properly taught normalization. Okay? Alright. So I would say that, when Gilbert is saying that, he's kind of indicting himself to a degree, but that's the thing. Whenever a teacher complains about students not knowing anything, it's like, well, who taught them? ... So, what's our next step?
Combination.
Consolidated also?
Consolidate the tables. That's right. So, this is fairly easy. You go through all of the tables you've generated and look for unique keys, right? You can number them. Supplier number, we'll call that table 1. Item number, table 2. Item number, ooh, is that new? No. That's 2 again. Supplier number, that's 1 again. Item plus supplier, is that unique?
Yeah.
So that's 3. Here we go. Contract number, that's unique. That'll be 4. Job number plus contract number, 5. Contract number, is that unique? That's 4 again. Contract number, employee number, and date. That's unique. That'll be 6. Employee number is also new. So how many tables do we have? We have 7. So I'm not particularly fussed that you should write out the intermediate step where you write all the combined tables. If you just add all of the attributes from each of these tables to the ERD, to the box, I'm happy with that. Okay, I'm gonna spin the camera. All right, camera, we're gonna do the ERD now. There we go. All right, so table 1. We have supplier number. Is that a primary key?
Yep.
Is it a foreign key?
Yes.
No. Just a primary
It
key.
is used elsewhere, but
It's used elsewhere as a foreign key, but not in this table. Very good. Supplier number. What else do we have?
supply name.
Yep. Supplier name. What else?
Discount,
Discount,
balance,
balance,
contact,
contact,
help.
and telephone number. That's quite chunky. You could,
Oh, it gets worse.
it's gonna be interesting. Oh yeah, it does get worse. No, it doesn't. So if we take a look at one down here, supplier name is something we already have up here. So we don't actually need to add anything more to this one.
I'm saying that in inventory, item is longer.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. So, common sense brain will say, this seems like a lot for this class. Maybe this could have been broken down further. Math brain would say, nay, we did the analysis. Right?
Maybe in further normalizations that we haven't covered, it might be broken down further.
Maybe. I would be interested to see what math they would use to justify common sense brain in that case.
Yeah, I'm a little bit weirded out by the fact that there's still like 4 others that we haven't covered. Like, how much further could you go?
The problem is third level normalization gets you, you can process a chunky report of 10 quantities-ish, or 10 attributes. To break it down into tables of this size, how big does the original data set need to be in terms of number of attributes? That's the question, right? It's probably a geometric progression, right? First normal form, you would, to end up with one table with 3 attributes, you'd start with 3, right? Because you don't break the table down. For second normal form, you might need 6 because you're breaking it into 2 tables. Third normal form, maybe you need 12, right? Fourth normal form, 24. Fifth normal form, 48. Sixth normal form, 92, 96. Right? That's why we're not covering it. Right? No longer fits on slides.
Yeah.
So, and also, this does get you pretty far, honestly, right? So, table number 2. Primary key is item number, oh man, I did the thing. I closed the box before I was finished. Description. Units.
Safety stock.
Safety.
Selling price.
Selling price. Quantity.
And primary supplier.
And sorry, what's the
Primary supplier.
primary supplier?
Which should be the foreign key.
Very good. There we go. That's 2. Three. What do we got?
Item, supplier, and cost.
Yes, item and supplier. So we've got primary keys, 2 primary keys, right? PK, are they also foreign keys? In this case, yes. We have 2 PKFKs. Supplier number, item number. If I had been forward thinking, I would have put this one in the middle between these 2, but whatever. I'm not grading for that on the exam. Box placement, there is no grades for it, so just put them wherever. I'll parse it myself, don't worry. Cost, yes. Cost, famous last words, right? Yeah. There we go. Table 4. We got contract number. Is contract number a foreign key?
Not for that.
Not for this table. Primary key. Contract number.
Contract name.
Name, yes, name and date. My marker is beginning to run out of juice.
I think
That's
there's
how long I've been doing this.
I think there's more, isn't there?
Yeah, the
Full quotes,
contract.
billing.
Oh.
Add more.
Ah, there we go. Contract name, full quotes, bid, yeah, there we go. That's the consolidation.
Yep.
Very good. Good eye. So we've got
Full quotes.
full quotes,
Billings to date,
billings to date,
costs to date.
costs to date. By the way, on the test, I'm also okay with abbreviations. But if you're not in my section, things I say about me being okay with things may not necessarily apply to other people. Number 5, job number plus contact number. It's another one of these guys, right? 2 PKFKs. Job number, you can see that at this point it's just writing, right? This is the easy part. And contract number,
And description and quotes.
description and quote, good. Thank you. And quote, there we go. 6, what do we got?
Fun triple one.
Oh yeah, triple one. Cool. My marker is actually running out of juice as I'm doing this. That's how much writing this is. And it's not even that. The markers have decreased in quality recently. Like, I've noticed that, like, it used to be, I'd grab a marker and it would last me half a semester. But like these days, I'm lucky if it makes 3 weeks.
It's the shrinkflation, because you can't see how much they put in it.
Yeah, that's exact. But the thing is, the ink is the cheapest part of the marker.
That's how cheap they are.
Yeah, like the marker should be getting shorter, right?
But it's harder to hold.
But actually, you know what? Like, in a technical sense, probably like the manufacturing process to like mold the marker, it's costly enough to retool that to use less plastic that they probably just have been cheaping out in other ways instead. Everything is painful. The RAM crisis. The RAM crisis.
Contract number, employee number, date.
Contract number, employee number, date. Contract number, employee number, and date. Now, interestingly, if I recall correctly, in the other example we did have one of these 3 bangers come up, but we didn't actually end up with any attributes in the 3 bang table. So it'll be interesting to see, now that we've had the unmitigated gall to imagine that this is the way that the table should be constructed. It'll be very interesting to see what the solution thinks. Yes?
Why is date considered a foreign key?
Oh, it's not a foreign key. Yeah, pardon me. It's because I was just writing and not thinking about what I was doing. Like you shouldn't do on the exam. Thank you for that. Regular hours, overtime hours. We have 1 table left. Very small one. You know, just so you know how much of a fixture you are in your organization. Not a foreign key. See, like, it's like, data! The part where you live. Employee number and employee name.
I also like the employee names, Tom Trowell, Gary Rake.
Yeah,
Kind of implies that this landscape company only hires you if your last name is like some kind of landscaping tool.
or it requires you to change your name, so that that's the case.
Brings up my point again.
Yeah. Bobcat? How is that a
Well,
pun?
it's a bobcat, like
Bobcat.
an excavator.
Oh, no.
Ah, they got you,
Oh.
Pete Camper.
Menagerie! guy who put the course together is Brian Menaggi. The pun master strikes again. All right, so we have our tables. What's our final step? The fun part?
Connect the lines.
Connect the dots? Yeah. So, remember the rules. Which side gets the crow's foot? Always the foreign key. That's right. So, foreign key of supplier. I would personally prefer if you connected it to the specific attribute, right, rather than the box itself. But I understand that, you know, it's a test and, you know, stuff happens. But that's like the nicest way to do it. Foreign key, supplier number. Ooh. Item number. Very good. This one. Job number. Job number, job number, job number, job number. Ooh.
That's also just
So,
a property.
for this,
Just a property.
Yeah. So job number is not a foreign key.
Yeah, I think we decided when we were going through it that job number is pretty much just an emblem. Like, it doesn't come up anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I'm remembering how the data actually looked. Contract number though. Very good. PK, FK, contract number. Don't whistle like this during the exam. Employee number.
Proctor walks up to me and says, "Can you shut up, please?"
I did that to a guy once, but it turned out he had Tourette's.
Oh.
Oh, no.
That was very awkward.
No.
Yeah, it was bad.
Wait, that's weird that you have some connect. That's weird.
Yeah,
That's weird.
huh. Well,
That's the first time I've seen something like that.
but let's think it through. All of that stuff has to do with suppliers and item and inventory tracking
I guess
and
that
billing.
yeah, I guess that wouldn't affect the actual job.
Yeah, like
So this is kind of like two different databases,
now,
or two parts of one database.
if we had a table that told us what inventory was used for what job, we would have a link. But we don't have that report. So I think our work is done. Shall we see how we did? I don't know, maybe people have been looking at the solutions being like, we'll take a look.
Oh yeah, it's three-way.
All right, so let's start at the top.
It also doesn't.
Supplier report. It agrees that the supplier number is the primary key. Item inventory, it's an agreement. Next one, it's agreeing that we have item plus supply as primaries. Contract, it's agreeing that job number plus contract number are the primaries. Haha. Okay, contract number, yes. But yes, it does have 3 for the labor report.
I feel
Ooh.
justified.
Haha. Well, well, well. My, how the turntables.
Not pun intended.
See, so the way that this thing appears, right? This is an artifact of the fact that this is a digital document, you can use copy paste, don't write it out on an exam if it's the same, just say 2NF is equal to 3NF, alright? Inventory report, yes, nothing unexpected. Item quote, yeah, that looks correct. Yeah, that was good. Contract number is date and contract deed, yep. The composite is description and quote, yep. So far so good. Status of contracts. Yeah, just one big table, very good. Label report. Ha-ha! Triple P plus employee number. We did it! We were right! Math and common sense won the day. So, amalgamation. You can do this as like its own separate step, but this is gonna be a test, and I think like, it is like, you're taking a slight risk of forgetting something if you jumped immediately to the tables, but it will save you a significant amount of time rewriting things out. So maybe just jump to the tables on the test, okay? Unless there's something on the test that says you need to show that work. But if not, don't. All right, let's see here. Do mine eyes deceive me?
Looks just as weird as ours.
Yes, it is also disconnected. So yeah, we did it. I do think the second one was harder.
Yeah.
So if you missed that, in the video archive, I do a go through of the Atlas steel, which you guys might benefit from. But if you're gonna do that, try it first.
Also the
All right.
last part of the-
My deal with this class was that everybody should have tried this before they came today as studying for the test. All right, good. We still have some time left.
Yes, yeah.
Can we cover everything else that's gonna be on the exam?
See,
Because right now, all I know about the exam is that it's this stuff, and then everything else we've covered since the midterm.
I mean,
Is that pretty much it?
I can tell you how to study for the exam. It's not the sort of thing that's really amenable to a review session.
Not necessarily asking for a review, just what's gonna be.
Yeah, okay. The coverage of the final exam is specifically all of the slides material that we've covered since the midterm. Alright? You can expect the final exam to occur in a very similar way to the midterm. A lot of it will be multiple choice.
That's fun.
What the hell? Interesting.
It's a little webcam. A lot of it will be multiple choice. That's actually what these things are for. So attach your webcam to. Yeah. A lot of it will be multiple choice. What's something else I can distract myself with? No.
Jinkies.
Definitions-based stuff, right? There'll be a few bits where it's like, you know, here's some stuff, tell me some stuff about it, right? A few others will be like, you know, according to the definition of blah, blah or blah is true, select one. So there's really not a great deal of effective, like, me doing stuff here now that would be effective preparation for that. The effective preparation for that, go through the slides, summarize them in point form. My, like, You know how server side allows a cheat sheet, but this one doesn't? Don't let that stop you from making a cheat sheet, right? Making a cheat sheet is highly effective studying. Highly effective studying. So, because what it does is it forces you to consume the knowledge, process it in the brain, distill it into the important points, write the important points down, right? That is highly effective studying. That is how I study stuff. That's what I'm doing when I make lecture slides. Actually, that's actually what I'm doing when I'm making my lecture slides. My lecture slides are my cheat sheet for a textbook. That's how I do stuff. So that is, you still have enough time before the final to do that, right? Hopefully, you've been paying attention throughout the course, coming to class. When you don't understand concepts, you ask questions. All of that, once again, I always consider the best preparation for the exam to be the course itself, right? I don't like exams which are crammable, right? I don't think cramming is like a healthy thing to do, but among exams, this is a crammable one if ever I've seen one, right? Because it's like multiple choice definition stuff to a great degree, right? So that's my advice. Unfortunately, for right here, right now, I don't have a problem to work through with you. If anybody wants any clarification on any of the subjects that we've talked about, I can do that. But unfortunately, I kind of just have to tell you to go read the stuff.
So basically.
Come on. You had your hand up first.
So you won't ask us to write triggers or stored procedures on the exam, but you may ask us for some concepts that involve those, like what are triggers or what is this aspect of a trigger, whatever.
You should be certainly familiar enough with the syntax that you can analyze one if given one.
Okay.
Right? Fortunately, it's in a friggin' easy, stupid language of very little going on, once you get past the weird syntax stuff in TSQL, you're honestly back in intro Python territory in terms of programming language complexity. So it shouldn't be too bad, right? But yeah, the short answer section is this.
Okay.
It's one long answer. So, yeah, but that doesn't mean you don't have to know stuff, right? Yes, sir.
That was gonna be my question.
That was going to be your question. Okay. Does anybody have any particulars that they'd like to ask me a question about? Any concepts you'd like me to clarify? I would review what the topics are, but I would basically be reading off the module headings, right? But I'll do that anyway, because this is the way you start studying, is by reading the module headings. So, coverage for the final exam includes stored procedures, triggers, normalization, second, first, and third normal forms, yet more normalization, even more normalization, and then transactions and concurrency control. So really, it's not that bad. Go through the slides on normalization, because there are a couple of definition type things in there, aside from the practice on how to actually do it, right? There are a few definition slides that you should pay attention to within the normalization stuff.
How about business rules and cardinality?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good one, yeah. Business rules and cardinality, that type of thing. But aside from that, you have like, what is it, three slideshows to go through? Let's see, it's, stored procedures, triggers, discounting, normalization, transactions, and concurrency control. Come on, it's only 3 slideshows. You guys can do it, okay? I want you guys to have the top average of all the sections. You got it in you, okay?
Is there like a bet?
No.
The best that takes all the,
Make me
like
money,
a pot of
guys.
money?
No, I just, I'm just, I want my students to do well. It's like, you have to understand, like, historically, that, like, this course is, like, not considered one of the best or most rigorous courses that we have on offer at this institution. And, like, despite that, people still don't get very good grades sometimes in this class. Like, the average isn't as, like, it reads as a lighter, fluffier course, yet people still do poorly on it, right? And I just want that to be because of, like, neglect, institutional neglect, rather than, that being attributable to the students. So I'm hoping that by, giving you some decent lectures, which, let's be real with each other, the lectures were not designed to be awesome. There was very little in the way of practical example, Anyway, I just want, do I have something to prove with you guys getting a good mark in this class? Maybe just a little bit. But I'm not in competition with Gilbert because he got the networking class. So they're kind of like, it's an apples and oranges comparison, but
My apple is better than your orange.
yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Perhaps I've said too much. Anything else? It's cold today. I'll go out. So this may be the last time I instruct a lot of you. I'm not doing any 4th semester courses next semester. Best of luck throughout the rest of the program. I hope that our time together has not been wasted. And a couple of good profs and good courses that I recommend going forward. Certainly anything like the grading in Kevin's courses is a little, but like the courses themselves are quite solid, so I'd recommend anything Kevin Brown's done. Gilbert is like a rigorous mathematician, so if you're a rigorous math type, you'll like him. He's also like a bit of a hard ass, so if you're the type, I assume that a lot of you, because you chose my section, you're not like completely, you don't hate the idea of having a hard ass as a teacher, but if you like that, then Gilbert's your game. Definitely see if you can get into like Math of Gaming, Steve's course in, I think it's fifth.
I thought you was just doing research now.
Next semester he's off. He's completely off teaching to do research, but his course is still good, even if he's not teaching it. I think it's run in the fall though, so you'll take it in the fall.
Is it 6 semesters?
Well,
Something like that, I don't know, but
this is 6th semester, I think.
yeah. But you guys aren't going into 6th semester now anyway, so you know. My understanding about his research is that like next semester he's off doing research, but he's going to be like kind of popping in and out a little bit to do the courses he likes. And Math of Gaming is like, it's his baby. You should think of it as Data Structures and Algorithms Part 2. Oh yeah, watch the frig out for data structures and algorithms, because that thing will chew you up and
Who do
spit you out.
recommend for that?
Yeah.
Who do you recommend for that?
Gilbert, if you can get him. Karen, I've heard, is pretty good too. Yeah,
Study it over the winter break.
Yeah.
Oh,
Where do you begin to study for that?
look at, no, me, you should take data structures and algorithms with me, because, when I was at the university, I did their data structures and algorithms, and all of my videos are still online. So, now, the curriculum will be different, but hey, if you want a bunch of data structures stuff, I got that.
Come to the game dev club and he'll apply it to the games, and then you'll learn.
Yeah, actually, like, if you can manage to, like, swing by Game Dev Club, like, it's kind of like game development and moaning about courses clubs. So, you know, if you want to come somewhere to moan about courses and have, like, an impromptu thing about data structures and algorithms, I'm actually fairly good at that, so, yeah.
Very candid question about that. One of my peers was like, their theory is that you actually hate when you vent about other courses, and that we're like making your job kind of harder, and you couldn't decide